Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about accidentals and octave designation. For this to make sense, you'll need a good understanding of how to write pitches on the staff. For more help with that, you can watch my last video. Accidentals are used to raise or lower the pitch, but first I'd like to introduce the concept of a half step. A half step is sometimes called a semitone, especially in the UK, but I'll use the terminology of a half step. As I play a key on the piano keyboard, as I move up to the next adjacent key, I've moved up a half step. The keyboard is made completely of half steps. A half step can be moving from a white key to a black key. It can be moving from a black key to a white key. It can even be moving from a white key to a white key. That's between E and F or between B and C. A half step will never be moving between two black keys. That's more than a half step. So again, the important thing to know is that the keyboard is made completely of half steps. The same is even true on guitar. As you move up a fret on guitar, you're moving up a half step. Now, as you have that understanding, let's talk about accidentals. Our first accidental that we're going to talk about is a sharp, not a hashtag, but a sharp. A sharp raises the pitch a half step. So if I have a C and I move up a half step, we've arrived at C sharp. If I have an A and I move up a half step, this is A sharp. I think we can understand how that works. Our second accidental is a flat. A flat lowers the pitch a half step. So we have a G, we'll move down to G flat. If we have a B, we can move down to B flat. And this raises something interesting here. We have one pitch, one key on the keyboard, and it has exactly the same sound, but we have two different letter names, A sharp or B flat. These are called inharmonics. They are inharmonically equivalent. It's the same sound, the same key, with two different names. That is something that is really a key concept in music and something that you have to get used to. If we have D, we can move down to D flat. C sharp and D flat are inharmonic equivalents. We can even move from C down a half step. We would think of that as B, but it could be called C flat. Or from E up to F, our F could be called E sharp. You might ask the question, why would I use one inharmonic or the other? Why would I use A sharp or B flat? I'm not really trying to answer that question today. That will make more sense as we talk about scales and key in music. We'll get there eventually. Our next accidental is called a natural. A natural is used to cancel a previous accidental. So say we had an F sharp in our music and the composer wanted to make the next note a regular F. It would be called an F natural. You would see the natural sign in front of that particular note. Naturals are always white keys. Naturals cancel previous accidentals. Those are the three main accidentals that are used the most often, but we have two more. This is a double sharp. It looks like an X. It is used to raise the pitch 2 half steps. This is also known as a whole step or a whole tone. So if we have a C and we move up a half step, that's C sharp. If we move up another half step, we have C double sharp. It looks like C with an X next to it. C double sharp is inharmonic with D natural. One more accidental. You can probably guess what it's going to be. A double flat. It's used to lower the pitch 2 half steps. So if I have an E, I I can move down to E flat and then down another half step, and this would be E double flat. E double flat is inharmonic with D natural. I think we have a pretty good idea of the way accidentals work. Let's learn these same concepts on the staff. Here we have a staff with the treble clef. I can write, say, an A flat. One key thing to know here, we write the accidental before the note head. And when we say it after the note name. So accidental before the note head. If we're saying A flat, we say the flat after the note name, and we write it that way. So just an important distinction there. A flat is inharmonic with G sharp. It sounds the same. It's the same key on the keyboard. These are inharmonic equivalents. How about E down to E flat? E flat is inharmonic with D sharp. Here's something to know. What if I write another D? Is that a D sharp or a D natural? As it's written now, it's actually a D sharp. Sharps apply, or accidentals, sharps and flats, apply for the entire measure. A measure is a rhythmic grouping. You'll see bar lines, the entire bar, the entire measure. This is implied to be a D sharp. The bar line cancels an accidental. If I write a D here, this is a D natural. What if we wanted this one to be a D natural? We didn't want it to be a D sharp. We would actually write a natural in front of the note, and then it would be a D natural instead of a D sharp. The important thing there to know is that the bar line cancels the accidental as well. Accidentals are good for the whole bar. They apply to the entire bar or measure. Let's look at bass clef. How about A sharp? A sharp is inharmonic with B flat. What about this? How about C double sharp? I'm going to play a C natural. I'm going to move up to C sharp by a half step and up another half step to D natural. C double sharp is inharmonic with D natural. Or if I had a G double flat, we'd have G down to G flat down to G double flat, which is inharmonic with F natural. So I think we understand how our accidentals work, and we can see those on the staff. One more concept for today, and that is octave designation. Octave designation tells us the register that a pitch is played or sung in. It tells us specifically if it's a high pitch or a low pitch or somewhere in between. It's a way for us to specify the register of a pitch. Octave designation works on the pitch C. I'll explain what I'm saying. The lowest C on the keyboard is this one right here. It's called C1. An octave higher, we have C2 and C3, C4. This is also called middle C. Middle C is important, especially as we look at pitches in bass clef and treble clef. C5, C6, C7, and the highest key on the piano is C8. The important thing to know with octave designation, from C1 all the way up to the next B, all of those pitches in there are in the first octave. From C2 to the B that's higher is in the second octave. From C3 to the next B is in the third octave. So if we have this F, this would be known as F3. Or if we have a G here, this is G2. Or if we have an E, this is E1. This really isn't that hard to understand how it works, but sometimes it can be a little confusing when we're looking at it on the staff. Again, the important thing to know is that middle C is C4. The C an octave higher would be C5, and the C an octave higher than that is C6. So everything from middle C up to this B is in the fourth octave. Everything from C5 up to the next B would be in the fifth octave, and as you go higher, we're in the sixth octave. So say we had G sharp here. We can tell that G sharp is in the fourth octave, so we would call this G sharp 4. What if we had a D that was all the way up here? We know it's a D. It's higher than our C6 just by a step, so this is D6. What if we had E flat? We can tell this is in the fifth octave between C5 and C6. So this would be E flat 5. One more. What if we had this B flat? It's below middle C or C4, so this would be B flat 3. Let's do the same thing in bass clef. Middle C is one ledger line above, and it's C4. The next C below is C3, and the C below that is C2. So, what is this A sharp? It's between C3 and C4, so this would be A sharp 3. What if we had D flat? It's above C4, so this would be D flat 4. What if we have B? It's just a half step below C3, but it's not in the third octave, it's actually in the second octave. So this is B2. What if we had, what is that? Here's C. That's actually an A. That's A1. It's below C2. The lowest key on the piano is actually called A0. I think you have a pretty good idea of how to use these octave designations. Let's do some examples. We are asked to identify 4 pitches in bass clef, and then we are asked to write 3 pitches in treble clef. We have a D sharp in bass clef. This is above C3, so this is D sharp 3. We have a D flat up at the top in bass clef. This is above our middle C, C4, so this would be D flat 4. We have an A natural. It's below our C3, so this would be A2. This is an interesting one. We have a B sharp. B sharp is an enharmonic equivalent with C natural. We know that the C natural is C4. We might be tempted to call it C4, but it's written as a B, so this is actually B sharp 3. That's a little weird, but that's the way it is. Now let's write some pitches. C sharp 5. If middle C is C4 and this C is C5, then we would have C sharp 5. Or A flat 3. Again, if this is middle C, then our A flat below that middle C will be A flat 3. One more, B flat 4. Middle C is C4. This next C is C5, so it has to be in between. Here is B flat 4. Thanks so much for watching all of this. If you need more help, I have study notes and a practice quiz that are available. Just check the description of this video. I hope you feel like you've learned something today, and I would just ask that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.